The more I read about what's going on in Iraq regarding the politics, the economy, the development, the stabilization, this little baby right here reminds me exactly where Iraq is. They're almost there. Just like a newborn, they're getting on their feet, but it's a little shaky.
Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? I couldn't agree more with Mike Pompeo. This is what the Iraqi people want: a stable, prosperous, and independent Iraq. There are no better words. There are some interesting articles that have came out recently over the past few days. There might be some type of understanding, and we might see the end of the political blockage. For some reason, I find that hard to believe, but that's what's being reported. If they somehow manage to find a way to keep the coalition of law, I believe is what they're called, Maliki and his people, out of the government, then you will get agreement with Sadr. But Sadr seems very determined to make sure that Maliki is not part of the government. There is other good news, and it just seems like we're right at that doorstep. Right at that doorstep. Just like that newborn trying to walk, it's like watching Iraq trying to start walking all over. Little wobbly, but at least they're standing upright. Before we get into these articles and have a discussion, do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. Right now is a great time to be buying precious metals. When you go to buy your precious metals, go check out our friends over that Money Metals Exchange. The link is down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend $100 or more, use promo code Pimpy, P-I-M-P-Y, and you will get a free half ounce of silver. So we know towards the end of 2020, it was disastrous for Iraq. They were almost bankrupt. They knew good things were heading their way, but they just needed to find a way to keep their head right above the water. And unfortunately, they were forced to devalue their currency, which disproportionately affects poor people. You never want to do that unless you have to, but that might have been one of the best choices that Iraq made, despite who it affected, unfortunately. Coupled with the devaluation of Iraqi Dinar and the increase of oil costs, all of a sudden, Iraq has come into a windfall of money, and it appears they're doing the right things needed to help improve the situation over in Iraq. I like to chalk that up to Al-Qadimi and his financial advisor, Alawi, for implementing the white papers that's been there apparently for some time. Says the Minister of Finance, the international community supports Iraq by implementing the white paper, and we do not need financial support. That's the words we want to hear. You do not need financial support. In other words, no more borrowing. You guys are doing just fine making the money that you are. So the Minister of Finance, Alawi, on Thursday said Iraq's aspiration for a supportive international role in the implementation of programs, including the white papers, and while stressing that the country is not in dire need of financial support at the present time, he announced the government's aspirations to expand the tripartite cooperation with Egypt and Jordan for this stage of the common market and other programs. Alawi said in his speech on the sideline of the spring meeting of the bank and the International Monetary Fund in Washington that the main purpose of the visit to Washington and participation in meetings with the integrated team from the Ministry of Finance and major banks is to strengthen and deepen our relationship with the international agencies. Of course, the team is in talks with the U.S. Treasury, as there are some important and outstanding issues that are not related to the U.S. financial support, because fortunately, we do not urgently need financial support now. Man, I love those words. This is what you want to hear. But we need more technical assistance and moral support for our reform program, which has been completed, included in what we call the white papers. So basically, they're looking probably for help on technical support, training, implementation of new software, dragging their butt out of the medieval times or bringing them up to date as far as technology is concerned. He added, I do not expect to conclude any major economic agreements with the United States because we have the Strategic Framework Agreement and we are satisfied with it, and we welcome the continuation of American support for the economic development of Iraq. But the focus now is more on what we would call programs and plans instead of the money. What we need is a revaluation in our financial management and our understanding of the strategic issues and economic issues facing the country, adding, we have missed many opportunities that would have pulled the country out of a poor economic performance, and Iraq probably missed the equivalent of 50 years of progress. Yeah, that's scary to hear, man. That's how outdated they are. They still are using the 386 computers with the green screen and dark matrix printers. I'm really aging myself with that one. They got a fax, yeah. Prints out about 2 pages per 15 minutes. Anyways, Alawi stressed we are stuck in inherited problems that must be addressed, almost all of which are related to institutions, noted that benefiting from the country's resources and its strategic location necessitates planning and re engineering the economy to take us beyond the oil era, as there are major issues and challenges facing us and facing the next government, and who will be responsible for the next economic team. A little further down, Alawi said the white papers can be reduced to its essentials as a strategic program to reform the governmental public sector. And the reason that led me to believe that the public sector needs reform is that the country is dominated by inherited issues that have been imposed on the state, certain structures, including an economy controlled by the state, which, despite all the rhetoric over the past 20 years, it has not succeeded in developing the private sector and the transition to a free economy. So we needed to address this problem. So the interesting thing that Alawi is saying is, check this out. They have counted over 600 reform points, which must be implemented over 5 years. So you see, it's not all just about the money they make. That's why I hear this all the time, and people are really sadly mistaken if they think this is all it takes. Just because Iraq has increased the amount of money that comes in, that isn't what's going to change its value during the exchange rate. That's a small portion of it. There are other factors out there that you heard me go over several times. This is what they're trying to do with these white papers. He is saying that they have identified 600 points that need reform. He said public finance is very important because it is the main component of the economy that supports GDP instead of entering into an international loans that put Iraq at the mercy of international agencies. And here we decided to confront the matter and design a program in a specific time period to eventually produce a radically different public sector, a new strategic vision for the country. Usually they're so bogged down with corruption that they make all these promises and nothing gets done, and they keep the money. The corrupt people I'm talking about. So they're also looking to expand their tripartite group, which includes Iraq, Egypt, and Jordan. Alawi stressed that the relations focus primarily on the political file and economic exchange may have a lesser role at the present time, and there is still talks of a common market or an attempt to establish a common market in its initial stages. Look, Iraq's doing what they need to do to start really relying on other forms of income outside of the oil. So trade is big. If they can get trade partners going, they start doing what they need to do. This will help strengthen the economy because everybody will start going back to work. Slay also talked about the 2022 budget. He described it as expansionary and includes two types of spending. The two types of spending, of course, is what he's talking about is one that helps out what you would call the welfare state, helping individuals who need financial aid from the government because they have no other form of money, especially after they devalued their currency and inflation is hitting them as well. The other kind of spending is doing what they can to develop the private and public sector so that more jobs are created and they continue to move away from relying so much on oil to pay for their overall budget. In here, he's talking about the budget for 2022. It looks like they're going to increase spending between 40 to 50%, and it's supposed to go all to the development projects that employ more people and generate income. So they have put the draft together, but it has not been presented. I know Parliament was asking for the budget. If they can't get out of this deadlock, I don't know what they're going to do. They're going to have to use the current government, pass the 2022 budget, and continue to move forward as if the elections didn't happen, even though we know they did. But until the new government gets in there and has been established, Al-Kadhimi and his people need to do what they can to continue to keep Iraq afloat and on the right track. Now, I did like this article right here, though. It said the statesman of Iraq has turned it into a secure environment for regional understandings. It said the Secretary General of the League of Arab States welcomed Iraq's role in converging views between the countries of the region. The Secretary General spoke to the news and praised Iraq's performance through the permanent representative, headed by the permanent representative ambassador, within the framework of the Joint Arab Action. The Secretary of the Arab League also indicated the importance of Iraq achieving stability in the Arab region and the Middle East, stressing that the Iraq statesman was able to turn Iraq into a meeting ground for interests and a safe environment for dialogue and regional and international understandings. So if people are going there feeling safe, that's another positive. Obviously, believe it or not, these are one of the things that we look at whenever you're determining the exchange rate. The country has to be stable. People are not going to invest in a country that is not stable. So they have an increase of money, which is good. That helps them with developing the private sector's infrastructure, getting people back to work, financing projects, doing what they need to do to stop relying so much on oil revenues for their budgets. In addition to that, countries making comments about the fact that Iraq is a safer place is also a major plus. Iraq going over to meet with the United States and an International Monetary Fund, not to borrow money, but just to ask for support in implementing their white paper programs. That's awesome. They're not there to borrow any money. So, no need for money, plenty of money, new jobs, developing the private sector, weaning themselves away from oil. This is all major plus. That's what I'm talking about. When I look at that horse trying to stand up on its feet, it's like Iraq trying to learn how to walk all over again. It's on its feet. It's just trying to remember how to take a step. Anyways, that's it for now, you guys. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I surely do appreciate it. And I'll catch you later. I'm out.